I don't know.
It comes with trouble, like brain thing.
Well, good evening, everyone. Let's do close. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for coming to our meeting this evening for the USD 209 School Board. Our first order of business today is the ordering and approval of tonight's agenda as presented, and I would sure entertain a motion for that.
So moved.
Thank you, Sean, and may I have a second? Thank you, Sally. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you so much. It does pass unanimously. I'm super excited for the reports tonight. We have several. Let's start off with our district bond project update.
And I'm promising I'm going to take the least amount of time because we have so many good things to share, but we are all in bond projects. So if you were to drive by the middle school, even if it's on the weekend, I know on Saturday they were up on the roofs and that was a windy day. So roof is still happening at middle school and high school. At the elementary school, they are in every ceiling, or will be in every classroom. So we're even kind of displacing pods for about a week at a time. They are finished with the library, and they finished with where they cook, not the cafeteria, but in the cooking part. And then this week they're in the second grade pod. So they're getting in every ceiling tile to start the connections for eventually the new rooftop HVAC units. At the high school, we had the grand opening for the softball facility a couple weeks ago. That was awesome. And then if you were to go in the little theater, you would not even recognize it. Walls are up, doors are moved, the ceiling is raised, the floor is raised, so it's all one massive room. It was reported to me, but I haven't seen these yet. I'm going to go look this week, but all the shower floors have been poured in the new locker room, so you can see where all the individual showers will be. I think it was Lindsay and Letitia today. They did a little sneak peek during prom and said that the locker rooms look amazing. And you all know that was kind of my beef. I couldn't stand those locker rooms. And then we are under budget right now, which is really good. And I'm not being facetious when I say this. I truly believe we were very lucky and beat a lot of what's happening in terms of tariff decisions. And we locked in those prices for all of our HVAC and most of our supplies and materials. So that was a good move on our part to get all those supplies locked in. So our HVAC units are locked in and at our price point. So we're a little under budget. We are able to do some work to the weight room and chef's culinary room with some of these extra funds in addition to extra roof work. Remember, we had a 10-year roof plan, and my goal is to knock off 2 to 3 years off of that 10-year plan with remaining bond funds. So really exciting stuff. Hopefully we'll have a Monday Minute out soon, so you'll actually get to see some footage of those new spaces. The minute track season ends, they'll be starting on the football field. So I shared this story, but as I walked out of the track meet last week, I was emotional, of course, leaving the track meet, which is crazy because just where I am right now with all my lasts. But walking by that baseball field, it's amazing, and I'm super excited about what's to come. Such good work happening.
Next, we have our personal device task force that Nicole Honeywell and Dr. Renee will visit with us about. What a great process we had on this.
We're going to team this one from up here because we've got this whole project together. So I'll let you go.
So we had several board members who served on this as well, and we'll give you recognition later on throughout this. And then our policy committee was involved also. So just wanted to start with the why behind this. Most of you are pretty aware that KSDE started a Blue Ribbon task force, just really looking at the impact of electronic devices on students in terms of mental health. And then it's been a hot topic in the Kansas legislature as well as other states. We know that there were other Kansas school districts reviewing their policies and practices, and then so we looked at what was the best route to examine our policy and practices.
And of course, we did have a policy in place, but we just needed to review it and see if it was appropriate to what the talk is around the state and with the new research that's out. So of course, we try to align everything we do with our mission and vision, and so that's up here for your review. But even the committee pointed out to us that Part of our mission is to identify and remove barriers to guarantee students' academic success. So the purpose of this committee just really lined up to that mission.
And then we brought here to you the areas of the board strategic plan where this really aligns. So the focus area 1, of course, is educational opportunities and learning. And we know that cell phones in the classroom can impact that learning. And then focus area 2, communication, as we sought to have lots of involvement from the community in that process. We were seeking that engagement.
Our guiding objectives really were look at our current policies and really determine if what our policies currently are areas of strength, weaknesses, or what we need to do differently. And then we also needed to identify what those barriers were. And when you identify the barriers, that helped us more to define what a personal device was.
So this is an overview of the process. We started with some backwards planning. We knew we wanted to have something ready for you at this board meeting to present. We did a stakeholder perception survey, so community members, parents, and high school and middle school students got to weigh in, and we had great participation from those students. Then we had an application process for individuals to be on the committee. We selected the committee members, and this was my first time being involved in a process where we had more committee applicants than spots, and so we actually had to turn people away, which actually was a great thing because we got to engage some voices that we don't normally hear from. And then we had 5 total task force meetings, and there was homework in between those task force meetings. Then last Monday, we brought the recommended policies to the board policy committee for their feedback. And then here we are tonight. That's it, presentation to you.
So look at the task force committee members. If there's anyone in the audience who served on that committee, if you would stand and be recognized. I see a couple of you.
Thank you so much.
It was really fun to have students serve on this committee. There were 3 from the high school, a freshman, sophomore, and junior, and then 2 from the middle school. We excluded seniors for obvious reasons. They won't be impacted by this policy. And they really, truly had a voice at the table at first, the first meeting. I think they felt a little overwhelmed, like all these adults are out to get us. But I will give it up to Mr. Boulderback. He brought the middle school students over, and then after the first meeting, they went back and debriefed. And he said, you're okay to speak at these meetings. And then they all started gaining a little more confidence as the meetings went on and really shared their perspectives. And then just the community engagement too. We had parents, but also business owners, clergy member was on this committee, board members, administrators, a paraprofessional from the high school, so a really good mix of people.
And I think one of the comments Renee made along the way is this was a great way for our students to participate in a collaborative dialogue where it's okay that you disagree, but you learn how to disagree in a productive way. So this just shows our task force meetings. There were 5. That was some of the information that we went over each time. We really got into the policies. We picked them apart. There was some really great discussion at each table talking about pros, cons, areas for improvement.
And I think this is just another way to look at how those meetings went. I will say that we truly gave the tables and the participants the voice. Like, we gave them the work and they did the work.
And so these were some of the committee takeaways just from all of our discussion and listening through that whole process, that there really will be a need to educate everyone, students, staff, parents, and families on why we're making a change or why we're enforcing current policies, and then just really emphasizing that we're trying to create a culture where learning time is sacred and that student academics and mental health are paramount. That really came away from everybody in the committee. Of course, we know that implementation will be mainly at the building level as building administrators are leading their staff in that pursuit. And so we know that we'll need to regularly kind of review our practices. And then down the road, if we need to revise, we can do that as needed.
So here is the recommended policy. We did put a purpose statement and a definition of what a personal device is. So the purpose is it establishes guidelines for the use of personal electronic devices within the district in order to promote a culture of learning, minimize distractions, and contribute to student well-being. The definition, and this is where it gets a little trickier than what we've had in the past, The personal device includes, but is not limited to, cell phones, smartwatches, tablets, headphones, any other electronic communication or entertainment device that is not district issued.
So then the first policy that didn't change at all was the elementary policy, and we heard from our principals and teachers at the elementary level that this really isn't a current issue for them, so they're gonna continue to enforce that devices aren't permitted, but if they are brought, they'll stay in the students' backpacks and remain powered off and stored there for the whole day.
At the middle school, no personal electronic devices from bell to bell. So they have to be turned off, put in the locker from the first bell to the last bell of the day. There was a lot of discussion about, well, sometimes they go to their locker in between classes and check their phones. And we'll have to do a lot of educating with families, but every classroom has a phone in case of an emergency, and so forth. So we'll be moving to no personal devices at the middle school level, bell to bell.
And then the high school policy, we'll just say this is a really good example of going through a process and getting input, because it's not necessarily what would have been our preferred policy, but this is what came from the committee. So the policy would be that personal electronic devices are off and stored away during class time and restroom breaks. And then device use is permitted only during passing periods and during lunch.
The trick will be having them powered off and put away, out of sight. Staff also will have an updated policy. The staff should silence personal devices, store them out of sight during class time and student supervision. Device use is permitted for necessary communication or emergencies. Staff are expected to actively model appropriate technology use in alignment with student policies.
And then at Central School, we just wanted to put this in here. This isn't a change, but Central School actually has all students turn in their devices currently, and that's working really well for them. So that policy will remain in place. It's a little different to do that with 50 students versus 100 students.
That's a recommendation, so we'll actually review that policy recommendation later on in the board meeting under policy review. This is just a first read, but we wanted to walk you through the process that we used. And so if you have any questions about the process or so forth, and we'd be happy to answer them.
I would like to just talk about, so Sally, Sean, and I are on the policy committee, so we've kind of already seen this. And we talked about how it wasn't necessarily what you guys wanted for the high school level. You'd rather have bell to bell, but I do really appreciate that you honored all of the work that the task committee put into this and went with what they recommended. And I was bell to bell also, but I do like that at the middle school, they're powered off, they're put away throughout the day. But then when you do get to the high school level, you get more freedom and we're giving them a little bit more responsibility. So I like that.
Yeah, we had a lot of discussion about this. You know, as you get older, you teach different levels of responsibility. And so hopefully at whatever job you go into, we know that you can't have a cell phone, but at lunch you probably can check your messages. On a break, you probably can check your messages. It's just making sure we're teaching that responsibility versus expecting that responsibility. And there's going to have to be a big education component.
Well, I think also we discussed that each building level will determine what consequences there'll be. And that'll be up to, I guess, the admin.
So there was a lot of discussion that really at first started driving the discussion about the policy. Like, are we putting too much on teachers and principals? And we finally had to say, like, a policy is developed as a policy, and then the next steps are how do you handle the consequences. But after the May meeting, if the board approves this policy, principals will start right away. We tend to like consistency in consequences, but you're right, grade and age appropriate does look different. So I anticipate grade levels, buildings will be working on how they will handle infractions, and then they'll come together and work through that.
And when we bring the handbooks forth in the discipline matrix
was interested in the, what the conversations were regarding the staff, and I think it's fine what the policy is going to look like, but that is a major change, probably even more so than for some of the students, that and the smartwatches. So teachers were on the committee and can live with this, and
They were imperative that it was absolutely fine to model. There was some discussion like, what if the internet goes down and we have to rely on our phone? And my philosophy is that's a case by case special circumstance, and we'll have to deal with that like we do any special circumstance. But I think that the teachers on our committee were on board with consistency with the staff policy.
kudos to everybody. Great work.
Any committee members, did I miss anything that we talked about? No? Okay. Thank you. Very good work. Love the process. That was excellent. Next, we have Mrs. Dr. Williams. Congratulations. Awesome. Dr. Williams, I would love to have you come to the podium and let's talk about Atchison High School and the great things happening there.
Good evening. Swap computers. Well, it's a great day to be a Phoenix. That's one of our things that we say at the beginning of the morning. And so, excited to discuss the great things that are happening at Atchison High School. And so, what we'll discuss today, we'll talk academics, we'll talk individual plans of study, attendance, social emotional learning, graduation, civic engagement, post-secondary CTE, activities, and sports. So, got a lot to discuss. Let's get started. So, academic preparation, what's new? So, visible learning is what we have been working on for, this is our 4th year with visible learning. And so, when he came this year and talked to us about what we have been doing with visible learning, we've already picked our learner dispositions. We've already talked about learning intentions and success criteria. Now we really have to hone in on our kids' level of engagement and what they are learning in class. And so we took this, what he presented to us, and we ran with it. This is something we use in class with our students, and they see it. It's called What's My Level of Engagement. If you see on one end of the spectrum, you have the active driving stage, and it is all about setting goals, seeking feedback, self-assessing. And then way on the other end of the spectrum, you have the disrupting, avoiding stage. And so this document here, we have blown up and put around the building. They're in the classrooms. Teachers have discussions about them at the beginning, middle, and end of class. And really want to hone in on what students are working on and assessing themselves. And so Blaine and I come into the classroom and we're able to talk with students about this and have conversations with them. If we see a student step down, we walk over to them and say, hey, what's your level of engagement? And so they know right away to think, am I at the driving stage, or am I at the disrupting stage, or just withdrawing, passive? And so we really have honed in and are working on those pieces. And so the next part of share, slideshow, we're going to have a slideshow. There we go, that's right. Okay, all right, and so the next portion, we set some goals for our students and our teachers. And so we have a success criteria goal that we have been working on with our students. And success criteria is the map in each class that each teacher puts either on the board, in the Google Classroom, so students know what they are learning in class and what they are going to accomplish in class. And so if you see there, we started in November with 30% or less of our students being able to articulate how to be successful within a lesson. And then now it is April 15th, and I can say we have surpassed that goal. 100% of our students absolutely are able to articulate the success criteria. They're able to tell you, Blaine and I, we come through during walkthroughs in the classroom, and we'll come up to students and say, hey, what are you learning today? They're able to tell us right away if they're engaged. We came up with a wonderful way to reward them. We give them ring pops for being engaged. engaged in their learning. And so now when we walk in, it's me, because they love me, first of all. And I'm like, are you gonna tell me what you're learning today? That's what I wanna know. And so the second piece where we're headed to next is our students knowing, showing proof of what they are doing. It's not enough to just tell us. We want to see that you can show us proof of what you're learning. And so we started talking about this template of my level of understanding is. And so they're able to jot down the success criteria and rate themselves about what they understand. And then show proof of that. So writing down the things that they already know. And then the next step is, what is the next step in my learning? Am I able to turn and talk to my neighbor and teach them what I am learning? And so that is the next step. If we go back to the goal here, you see us working all the way to April 15th on articulating the success criteria. And then the next goal says 20% of our students will identify their current progress in relation to the success criteria and be able to describe their next step. And so that's where this piece comes in. They will be able to describe their next step, either talking to their partner or somebody at their table or us while we're in there doing those walkthroughs. And so that's a huge component. The next piece, we wanted our goal to be visible to kids. We wanted our goal to be visible to teachers, to families. And so we created this Racing to Success. It's all about our kids driving their own learning. And so we put this up not only on our wall outside of our library so kids can see, but also in our teacher workroom. It is broken down by departments. And so the teachers are actually being able to see within just their departments how their kids are responding. And so when the kids respond, we've got carbon copies, but we went old school and started doing carbon copies and writing it down exactly what students were saying and putting the copy on the teacher's desk so they know what those kids are saying, that they're absolutely saying that they know their success criteria or if they're not saying that they know the success criteria. So the teacher actually knows and they can improve on that. And so we wanted it to be visible. We wanted students to be able to see it and have those conversations with kids. And so this is what we've been working with for since November. All right, I'm gonna talk real quick about assessments. And so these assessment scores are our scores from the previous school year. We're in assessment season right now. And so these are our scores from last year. So we took these scores and at our assembly two or 3 weeks ago, we talked about these scores with our students and we said, we want to crush these scores. These scores, they're not terrible, but we know that we can do better. And so we talked about crushing the state assessments. And so if you look at these scores, when you see 300, that means proficient. If a kid scores a 300, then that's proficient. So you see our school, our whole entire district, and then where the state is. This is the science assessment. This assessment is the assessment that our juniors take. Only juniors take the science assessment. And so our score from last year, grade 11 as a whole, was 282. And the state is at 282 as well. As a district, we're 278, but we're not that far away. All we have to do is just push that needle just a little more. One thing we're really working on is what does that look like within the classroom? And so within our building leadership teams, within our PLCs, we're having those conversations about what that looks like for next year. We really need to look at our scope and sequence and see what do we need to do to move our kids up to that 300 so all of our kids are proficient. This is ELA. So we're a little bit under the state average, but not that far away. Ms. Willis is going to come up in just a second and talk about all the things that she is doing to really move our scores up to proficient. These are our 10th graders. Only our 10th graders take the ELA test. And then this is math. And so also, again, we're not that far away from the state, but we know we can do better. We want all of our kids up to that 300 or beyond mark. We don't want them to stop there. We want them above and beyond. So we're adopting a new math curriculum. And so we've been through the textbook adoption. We are waiting on getting that training started so we can really look at the scope and sequences and really up the rigor of where we want our students to be in math. All right, I'm gonna have Rusty come up and talk about what she's doing right now to move that needle forward.
Okay, So those of you that know me, I'll start with something a little funny. So Dr. Williams, I have to get used to that. She says, "You got a minute." I'm like, "Oh, that's not happening." Those of you that know me know I can go for quite a while. So I'll do my very best here. So what I've done for you tonight is I've kind of gone over what we did in preparation for state assessment, what we did in preparation with what KITE gives us. So the wonderful thing is the amount of progress the kids are making. So what I've given you, start at the bottom, historical KITE practice, and I do not do this all year. We use the interim and we do a little bit of review before, but we try to embed this into our everyday routine. But the way it usually goes is this, okay? You assign a practice test. Maybe you all might recognize this from when you guys did, okay? So the students complete the practice test. Teacher does a whole class review. And the teacher hopes the students pay attention. So thanks to our wonderful Teacher of the Year department head, and man, did we get that right this year. Thanks to Dr. Dawn Smith, we are very proud of the work we are doing, and it would not be possible without her. So she might not be here, but she's going to get a shout out because she's the reason this goes the way it does. So one of the things that she introduced us to this year is the idea of the Socratic seminar. We need to get away from the teacher doing all the talking and get the students doing the majority of the talking. Okay? So what we did was we looked at their interim scores. The average fall interim score was 13.32 out of 30. Not terrific. Okay? But I tell the kids every day, it's about progress, not perfection. So by the time we got to winter, they were at 16.87 out of 30. All right? And that was a harder test. The rigor went up as we went along. 71% of all the sophomores went up from the fall to the winter. Okay, so that told us we were on the right track. So what we did is we took the idea of the KITE practice and we turned it into Socratic, which means this is what we did. Now I assigned the practice test. The students did complete it alone. But then we grouped them and they discussed it. Why did you choose that answer? What evidence did you use to support that answer? What did you notice about the way the question was worded? Because we do have to prep them for it, just like we have to prep them for ACT. They do interesting little things to kind of throw you off. Not everything is right there for the taking, so to speak. So we talked about rules for question discussion, and then I just covered anything that was lingering. What are you still confused about? What did you not come to agreement on? And what we found is they're digging deeper on the reasoning. And when they're digging deeper on the reasoning of doing what they're doing, when they went to take the state assessment last week, they were taking notes. They were writing it down. What they were doing with each other, they were then doing in their own head and doing on paper. Now, I don't know, obviously we don't know how it's gonna shake out. You always see something new. For all these years, we've kind of practiced poetry, and all of a sudden they gave them a Greek play script. Okay. But I will say the kids were like, oh, no, Miss Wells, that wasn't too bad. I thought it was easy. And I've never heard the kids say, I thought that was easy. So all I have to go on right now is, in my mind, with watching what they were doing, listening to what they were saying, there's some magic in it, in having them talk about the thought process and what they're doing and why they're doing it, and doing that with each other instead of just listening to me. And so Socratic Seminar is going to be a big part of what I do with the sophomores going forward all year long and building that. Thank you.
That was 2 minutes.
Sorry. Thank you. All right, now I'm going to bring up Mr. Jeff Wallace. He has done some pretty amazing things in our weight room with our students, and so I wanted him to talk really quick about that.
Thanks for having me here. I appreciate it. When Dr. Williams called me in last March, and we were talking a little bit about some things that she wanted to do at the high school. The key thing was that we wanted to develop kids during the day not as opposed to hoping they get some work with a personal trainer in the evenings, or doing something in summer. So, okay, I can do that. I knew we had some young, so we're going to get young athletes coming in here a year from now, and I said, you know, we're going to graduate some kids that are pretty darn good over the last 2, 3, 4 years, that we better start this development thing. So we started that this year. I had 41 kids in weight class in the third quarter. In an 8-week period, they accomplished the following. The group increased almost a ton of weight, 2,060 pounds in their max of the 4 core lifts, bench, squat, incline, and hang clean. The bench increased an average of 7.6 pounds per lifter. The squat increased 22 pounds per lifter. Hang clean increased 11 pounds per lifter. The incline increased an average of 5.8 per lifter. We put them in lifting groups, and we're trying to teach about learning to work together and the importance of safety when they spot. Obviously, number one is safety. You don't want to have somebody get hurt. That's for damn sure. We set a goal of another 2,000 pounds in the fourth quarter. I think they're all pretty excited about getting there. But just to give you an idea of what we do there, we lift 3 days a week. And then we have 2 days where one day is a movement day and a stretch. We get the body stretched to try to get them. If you see us play football, we got great players that are hips or line. You can just tell when the kids he can't move very well. So we're trying to unlock some hips. And then Friday is we kind of back off a little bit. We do a lot of band work, and we call it injury prevention day. So we're just trying to do all that stuff for the shoulders and the hips and the knees and the tibia, the fibia, all that different stuff. So when something does happen to them on the field or the court or whatever, they're flexible, they're able to get through that without any type of major injury. So that's where we're at, and we've got some great things planned for this summer to continue to do that. Any questions? Yes, as soon as you let me know when we're gonna have to get out of there and get that done, that would be tremendous.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. Thank you so much, Jeff.
All right, now we're gonna discuss ACT and ACT prep. This is our second year that we have had ACT prep class. And so I wanna talk really quick about what benefit that has been to our students who have taken the ACT. And so this, I know it looks kind of crazy, but I covered up the kids' names because I didn't want their names out there with their scores. But if you look at each of the bar graphs, the kind of the cluster of the bar graph, each one, so you see the yellow first is a student with the 3 bars. This would be their pre-ACT 8-9 score, pre-ACT 10, because they take it again their 10th grade year, pre-ACT, and then they take the regular ACT after they've had the ACT prep class. And so majority of all of our students have made significant gains with their ACT scores because of our ACT prep class. And so we are really looking at next year, really continuing to encourage students to get into that class, especially if they are college-bound students. Because the proof is in the pudding there. It really is a class that really prepares them. My son is a junior, and he actually went to take his driver's test recently and passed. And I said, well, how do you think why did you pass? He was like, oh, it was in my ACT prep class. It helped me. It helped me with testing strategy. So I just used that on my test with my driver's test and utilized that. And I'm like, okay, so the ACT prep helps beyond just the ACT. So, so these are just some of our kids' scores that have been in the ACT prep class. Not that you have to score, get into the ACT prep class to score, but with our students, this has been amazing. And so, these are just some of their numbers. Some of the interventions that we've added this year besides ACT prep, Math IXL, it's free in the state of Kansas, which has really helped move some of our kids along. Our special ed kids use FastBridge. Of course, ELA, 9th and 10th grade, they get the voice and choice in what they're taking in English and language arts. We're starting to adopt a new math curriculum, and so that's going to be huge for our math classes. Read 180 is an intervention-based reading groups class that we are continuing to use. LaRochelle Young teaches in that class, and then just really honing in and doing some curriculum mapping with our department so we can make sure we've got everything in that we need in the scope and sequence. All right, so our counselor, Mrs. Burkhalter, she is new with us this year, is going to talk, and she's done some amazing things with the counseling, Counselor's Corner, and so I'm going to bring her up so she can talk about the new freshman credit check sheet, Naviance,
and the updates of the course handbook.
Hello, thank you for letting me come tonight. So the counselor corner, we really wanted this to happen because there's a lot of information that comes through our office and it changes quickly. So we wanted to be able to put all of the information for students and parents in a central location. We've gotten some really good feedback, especially with the scholarship page that we have on there. Parents find it really helpful to have it all in one place. This year, the freshmen are the first ones to have these new guidelines for graduation. So I created this credit check sheet for them, and it'll be online so parents can look at it as well and help track where their kiddos are for graduation. So you can see it has their new requirements of speech, financial literacy, the place for the 2 CTE or STEM courses that they're required to take, in addition to their core classes. And then new to them is the post-secondary assets, which you know that we'll be able to have on there also. We also had our course handbook updated to put that as well, so parents and students can see all the classes that we have at Ashton High School and the CTE pathways to help plan out their 4-year plans for the IPS. Mrs. Lori Kelly was so gracious to make it look prettier than the one that we did. So if you have some time to scroll through there, that would be.
I'll need to write a letter.
She did, Dr. Williams did, right? We have to change it anyway, because you didn't put doctor on there, so. But it's in there, it has the graduation requirements, Kansas Region Scholars Curriculum, CTE pathways, all that helpful information for parents when they're talking to their kiddos about their future. And then, okay. And then finally, l'ambiance, we hope to be able to utilize it more next year. This year, we kind of just got kids back introduced to it after the break from COVID. So we sent all of the parents codes so they can be viewers to what their child is doing. They won't be able to make any changes. It's student driven, but they'll be able to see and talk to their kiddos and help them map out their 4-year plans. So just in it, the kiddos have a curriculum. There is a curriculum per age group that they must complete for every age group. And so all students have to have their curriculum completed by May 1st. Ask those kids back there to make sure. And then students also got to choose like what their career path is at this moment. We know it could change, but as of this moment, where they see themselves after graduation. So they were allowed to put that in there. And also we used it with our seniors this year to send their transcripts to colleges. So they just go in there, select the school that they're interested in, and then we send our little school profile and their transcript. Any questions?
Thank you so much. She's got
I think I'm the next one too.
She's gonna talk about the Phoenix 5, which is a new schedule that we have our seniors to do this year.
To participate in. So, all of our seniors, last year, some of them have taken every elective that they want to take, and they are just wanted to get to work or to plan for their post-secondary career. So, God was was gracious enough to let us pilot the Phoenix 5 schedule. So any senior that is on track for graduation has the opportunity to have 2 hours out of school. They could choose either first and seventh hour, first and second hour, or sixth and seventh hour to either go to work or start preparing for their post-secondary plans. And then once they were approved, then we have a contract that they will adhere to that talks about attendance, keeping your grades up. Because if they don't do what they have to do, then they would be subject to return to school for those hours that they were graded.
Certainly, when we started off the school, that we were going to do that semester, we started off with a Zoom meeting for any parent that was interested in it. And so they got to see what the program was about, what we were going to do, what the schedule. And so we were able to inform them first before their students signed up for it. So that worked out really well to get it out there first for families. And then we do have some students who, they're not here today, but they go over to Atchison High School. And Andrea, when they did their elementary report, talked about our students coming over to the high school, and they actually get paid to work at the high school, which has worked out extremely well. I just got an email today from Lauren Smith. She was singing their praises about how well they're working with kids and how they're helping students at the elementary school, and so we can't wait for that to continue. We would like it to be the application piece of their teacher pathway is what we would love for it to end up being, which would be like the culminating thing that they do at the end of their pathway. So we'll be working on that, but for now, it's really worked well hard. I got kids asking about it for next year. Yes, it's worked out really well. They loved it. All right, so attendance. Blaine's gonna talk about attendance. I'm gonna stand up with him just a little bit because we started a new committee this year called the 18, the attendance task force. Not new team, but you know, we were gonna get big change, but we didn't. And so we know that chronic absenteeism is something that is widespread, and we last year really seen our attendance go down, and Renee was like, we gotta make sure this attendance is up. I was like, oh, we're not gonna have that happen this year. So we started the 18, which includes Blaine and I, our counselors, Miss Lori Kelly, the big IT liaison. Brian is on that team with us, our school psych, and so we just we meet weekly. And so Blaine's gonna talk to us a little bit about that. And the truth counselor, yes.
Yep. And some ideas that we kicked in with this, with our 18 was the Phoenix 5, which you just learned about. Another thing too was the 10 you're in. We have a rule or a policy now that you have to get in class for the first 10 minutes before you're allowed to exit to use the restroom, go do anything like that. So kids are getting there, getting the important instruction at the beginning. Like she said, our truancy officer has joined our team. Some other things that we've done with this task force is we'll have meetings with the kids. We'll pull the kids in and see what is going on. Why are you missing so much class? What can we do to help you? And so they're not feeling attacked. It's more of a way of kind of like learning what is really going on in their lives. Because sometimes there's stuff that we don't know that's affecting them, and trying to help them do that. Calling parents, being in contact with parents too, and letting them know like, hey, we're gonna be on truancy. We've been trying to do announcements at games too for kids that are doing a great job and having 90% or 95% and above. Something else we do is we do attendance pointers each week. So they know at the end of the day on Friday, the last 5 minutes, they're going to get some calls down, and if they've been in school all week, they get a treat and get their picture up on the website. And so some next steps that we're looking for is adding attendance percentage to dances and activities. So if they want to attend these things, then they have to be in school. And then so here's some of our data with attendance. So the blue is from last year, and the gold is for this year. This is how much our attendance has improved this year. Yeah. Can't be perfect every day, but we're trying. And then we did a case study on 6 different students. Some of our more chronic ones from last year that are still with us this year. Student A, as you can see, has improved 8%. Student B has improved 5%. Student C went up 5%. Student D went up 7%. Student E did go down 1%, but we're still working with that student.
Student F made the biggest jump of 11%. Biggest things there is we had discussions, figure out why they were late. Having students that aren't playing in sports, we had the coaches get involved with it as well. Talked over with VOTEC, made that an incentive for them if they want to stay in it or get to it. Pathway teachers, conversations with the A team, put in some mental health supports for some kids that were missing because of that. Family support, we try to give them different incentives, and then also the truancy officer also in some cases.
Okay, graduation and CTE. So, really quick, let's talk about where we're at with graduation. And just some numbers, we do expect our graduation rate to increase even more thanks to, all the hard work from the attendance team, Lindsay at Central. We just really have, really did some wraparounds with our students just to make sure that they are getting to school. There's some flexibility being put in place, especially with the Phoenix 5, kids, you're not keeping kids there, not say holding hostage, that's not what we're doing, but we're allowing them to go out and have, work their job and have that time, and so they've really liked having those opportunities to do that. So last year we were at 90.2%, and I know for sure that that's going to be even higher this year with our graduation rate. We're continuing to do senior exit interviews, so this is not new, so that will be May 5th. So if you're invited to do those exit interviews, portfolios with our seniors, we are getting really close to those, which we know are awesome. College and career readiness, just some of the things that we have done this year. We've had families in for Walk a Mile in My Shoes, and then the list is kind of exhaustive. I didn't put everything on there, but we continue to have different activities for our students to engage in when it comes to college and career readiness. And then CTE Pathways, which is phenomenal and great. I'm gonna go ahead and have our CTE ladies come up and talk about CTE Pathways.
Good evening. My name is Desiree Lowry, and I'm the Public Relations Officer of the Atchison High School CTE Ambassadors.
I am Destiny Eiler, and I am the Secretary of CTE Ambassadors. Career and technical education pathways provide students with structured opportunities to explore and prepare for careers across various industries. These pathways integrate academic knowledge with technical skills, including hands-on learning experiences, industry certifications, and internships.
To become a completer in a CTE pathway, the student must fulfill specific course requirements within an approved sequence. This involves successfully completing at least 3 credits that follow the progression of introduction level course, technical level courses, and application level courses.
CTE brings significant benefits to both students and schools. Notably, 92% of Kansas CTE students transition successfully within 6 months of graduation. These programs also foster academic engagement and contributing to 99% graduation rate among CTE students in the state of Kansas. Additionally, CTE programs lead to increased student satisfaction and parental approval. Also, they provide tangible outcomes and clear pathways to post-secondary success.
The CTE Ambassador Program was formed last spring with each CTE pathway assigning 2 members. Throughout the year, the members have promoted their programs through community outreach, school presentations, and social media. We have spoken at Kiwanis and the school board meetings monthly. In November, the ambassadors hosted a CTE showcase. Currently, we are planning a presentation to the 8th graders and their parents. Thank you.
Very nice. Family engagement. So our most recent family engagement that we did was a Walk a Mile in My Shoes, where we had families come in and able to experience a day in the life of high schoolers. And so that was really fun to have families in, kind of walking about the building. They went to I can't remember, 1 or 2 classes with their student, and then we had a panel of students where the parents could ask them questions to get to know them. Leading tours, and so that was really great. And so upcoming, we have the Rising Phoenix Night, which is going to be 8th graders who are upcoming to be freshmen. And so that one is always very well attended. And so we're pretty excited because CTE ambassadors we're gonna be able to present to families, ask questions, anything that they need, wanna know about high school. And so that's gonna be our next, we just know the benefit of engaging families, and sometimes at the high school level, it's really hard to get families engaged, and so we'll keep offering them, and inviting them in, because we know, we all know the importance of having families a part of, the success of students. All right, and so something new we've started is Empower Her. And so Ms. Lori Kelly's gonna come up and talk about that.
Okay, hello. So Empower Her, this is the brainchild of an excellent, brilliant high school senior, Lily Ortel. When she brought this to myself and Dr. Williams, we were just ecstatic and just like in awe, because, for a young mind and for a young lady to want to be this concerned and show such leadership to do such a thing. So what I've provided is the goal of Empower Her. So to empower high school girls by connecting them with strong female role models to foster personal growth and create supportive community connections that encourage leadership and confidence. Okay, so we went through the process of like, who do we choose? So we selected some pillars, some female pillars of the community. Some that have made an impact, some that we feel could make a good connection, as well as serve as a good role model for students. And the response was amazing, because everybody was like, yes, yes, yes. Because we honestly didn't know how it was going to turn out in regards to the response from the women of the community. And so our very first meeting that we had, it was so amazing. The young ladies that we had participating, and they talked, they communicated, the role models, they were so good with the girls, allowing them to lead, allowing them input, showing that they were important. And just, really, we were able to see the significance of it, and it was a great experience. But any girl, any high school female is welcome to participate. This is something we're planning to continue to do next year as well. So I'm hoping the pillars will, continue to be involved in that, because we like to see our community make a huge impact on these young ladies, so that they have not only their parents and their peers, but somebody else from the community that they can have a connection with. So, any questions? Short and sweet.
That's great.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Yeah.
All right, and then civic engagement, I'm gonna bring up my principal advisory council. I just am very appreciative of them, and they're gonna talk about their role with the school body.
So when I made this presentation together, I was like, okay, we're gonna let this for a minute, it's gonna be short and sweet, and then everyone else shut up. And I was like, okay. So right away, well, my name is Austin Smith, I'm a senior high school lead, I'm president of this group, as the founder along with Dr. Williams. We are very thankful that she allowed this group to even exist. And then to my left here is Pete Davis, the senior, he is the current state vice president of the group. Then to my right is Jack Casey, the current sophomore, and who plans on being the president at our SS next year.
Yeah.
So when we founded this group, we believed in the power of the student's voice to assist with our wonderful teachers, our principals, whoever it may be, in giving the students the voice to help lead our peers. And to us, this matters because it's our learning, and it's our responsibility to account for whatever problems we have, whatever just might be wrong, maybe in the student body, maybe the teachers making us uncomfortable, or maybe we need to step up our learning. And so we believed in supporting ourselves by making a communication with our principals and all of our faculty. So I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about some of our accolades and things we've done to help Axon High School.
Thank you, Austin. As you all know, I am Hugh Davis, as you said, Vice President. Some of the things we've done, the accomplishments we have, the list may be small, but the achievements are great. I'd like to take a minute to acknowledge some of these achievements. We took feedback from the community, both students and teachers, on problems in the lunch lines. From one side being out of food to the entire day of lunch waiting there for a chicken sandwich. We did our best coming up with ideas among ourselves in the group and using ideas from students and teachers alike. We were able to use the ideas of the community to fix that problem. Most people were very, very pleased with it and asked us to continue. So we went on to our next issue, which I believe, if I recall correctly, was the automatic.
First was a big
That's what I said. Yeah. Well, another example would be the 5 and in, which is something I believe we were actively working on. As you are all aware, there was a passing period, and then the 10 and in. One of the problems that the students were facing was that there was a rather large campus. So there would be times where you would leave your class in the choir hallway, and by the time you're at science, the door is already locked. These are problems that were brought up to us that we are actively working on, I believe. So I will say almost an accomplishment. Now, the last thing I'd like to address as an accomplishment of our group before we leave, or I leave, and that's on to my friend Jed Casey, is the maintenance issue. I'm sure you're all aware of the destructive power of a group of teenagers. I was very much aware of it when I went to the bathroom a little bit before we addressed this problem, and we had torn a piece of the ceiling down to break open the towel dispenser. Now, we haven't exactly solved the Hulk-like impulses of teens, but we have come up with some ideas on urinal dividers and stall maintenance, as well as the possibility of vape detectors in the bathroom to cut down on the smoking sessions. I pass it now to my good friend Jed Casey.
We have a round of applause for the comedic expertise of So a couple things we thought about for continuing the Principals Advisory Council is we had an idea a little while ago of putting out an always open Google form and putting it in all the Google Classrooms for each class and having it open for suggestions and problems that the students are seeing in the school so they don't have to find one of us and it's not this whole convoluted mess of things. We did have a conversation with the food service people about the lunch lines, so we can bring that up. Yeah, that's probably it.
I would like to add one thing to that. One thing I personally did as a founding group was I was able to go speak to speech classes, and I was able to discuss what this group was about and bring it among some of our underclassmen, like some freshmen that might have been interested in joining our group in the future. One such, he was an awesome, just memorable person. His name was Robert Finnegan. He was very interested in seeing what this group is about, and I think it's just very encouraging how these groups of just young people are just so encouraged on getting a voice for our school, just to help principals and the students alike. So that's all we have. Do you have any questions, or we're good?
I just want to say, I think you guys need to do a podcast. I don't even like podcasts, but I would love. Very good, very good.
And Austin, also congratulations to you, Austin, on your award for music. I don't know exactly what it was, but I think it's really rare, and I'm extremely proud to know you and your hard work.
Thank you so much.
And we always have donuts, and it's always comedy. Oh, well, but you get to, yes, so I enjoy having the Principal Advisory Council. So last, Mr. King is gonna talk real quick about polling plunge, and then Tyler has a video, because he's not here, and then we are complete.
Thank you, Griffin, all of that. Thank you for having me come tonight and talk about some of the inclusive practices that we have going on at the high school. We are in year 2 of having our Unified Champions Club, which is pairing students with disabilities and without disabilities and doing activities throughout the day and throughout the year. So some of the things we did this year, we're really excited. We had Unified Bowling for the first time this year. And that's the picture there. As you can see, that the team had a rather large team that joined. I'm really excited about that, and we're hopefully to be growing a little bit more next year. We had a family bowling night at Mar Hill. If you don't know, Mar Hill, with the basement on their dorms, has a bowling alley, and they just refurbished. So they allowed us to use that. So we had a family night with middle school and high school parents and kids to come, and had a lot of fun doing that. Kind of the highlight of the year is we had got to talk at the Kansas Association of School Board meetings. We got to bring a few students with us, and one in particular, I wish he was here. Really excelled at that, and kind of came out of his shell and spoke up and did a great job. In fact, he's been nominated to go to a week-long summer program that he had his interview this morning for, so we'll find out soon about that. And then our big project of the year was the polar plunge. Some of you took part in that, some of you did not. But it was it was a great turnout, and it was an event that almost didn't happen. Thank goodness Dr. Williams was there and stood up, but the chief of the fire department did not understand how much water was going to be needed, and he thought it would just be a quick fill and go. He didn't realize it was up to, what did he say, 10,000 gallons that we needed. But we got it in just in time, did the plunge. It was actually a nice day. We got lucky for the weather, but it was great. Well, you know, that whole thing's supposed to be uncomfortable. You're supposed to be uncomfortable. Mission accomplished, yeah. But the big mission was raising funds. We raised almost $5,000 that will go back to our special needs team, which is pretty exciting. We have Project Success still going on, which is where we pair students with or without disabilities going into the classroom. We have Autism Awareness Day, which will be April 29th, I believe, this year, which we have t-shirts available, and we just encourage everybody, don't have to buy a shirt, but wear blue in support of those with autism on the 29th. We had the Spread the Word campaign, and then one of the cool parts is we included the middle school in all this. So we were proud that we started up a program at the middle school as well, so that was pretty exciting. And then coming up, we'd love to do a powerlifting program. And one of the things that we found out after bowling was over is that was it. They kind of had a letdown. And so we want to look into something that the kiddos can do all year round. And so we'll look at that for not next year, but maybe the year after. And then for our fundraiser, we're going to try to host a 5K. We're going to partner with the city of Atchison with that one and do a 5K for the community. And then try to do as many youth leadership programs as possible. So exciting year. Look forward to next year.
Thank you.
Now, if you want to see Tyler and what he has to say here, I will send this video to you, but just kind of a recap of all the sports and activities. There is so much going on at Atchison High School. We're into spring sports right now, and that's where Tyler is actually right now. He's at middle school track meet. We've got soccer going on, so the end of the school year goes by pretty fast with all the things. But sports and activities, we just have great students who have accomplished so much. And so if you have questions about that, you can always ask Tyler. All right, any questions?
Yeah, just keep up that phenomenal work. That is amazing. Thank you so much.
I think what I appreciated most hearing, all of it was absolutely wonderful, great reports, everybody. But the talk about attendance, we know that we can't teach kids unless they're present in our classrooms. And I like how proactive you're being and what you're doing here. I visited the high school several days in a row a month or so ago, and I walked in, you were in the hallway, and I said, where is everybody? Because it was like 8:04. I said, where is everybody? And he said, it's in your room. It worked. I could feel the difference in the building. That's a great idea.
Yes, so it's worked pretty well. Yeah, we were all about, making sure kids are in class.
Thank you so much. Excellent work. Next, we have Jackie Coleman with the math book adoption.
Thank you, Marie. So, tonight we're just going to overview the adoption process. We're nearing its completion. Matter of fact, today we got a phone call, so we now know what everybody wants and are getting, just finalizing some contracts and things. We're going to review the key steps and the outcomes to our process, and the focus was on quality, curriculum quality, teacher input, and then final selections. So we started out and we had grade span representatives who would help with the adoption lead. So K-12, we had Mona Urban. Grade 5 was Andrew Gerlach, and he had for the soccer season here for a lot of them, so that wasn't really difficult for him to get to. 6A representative was Kylie Koopman, and then the 9-12 representative was Kayleen DeWare. And we met probably early in November to kind of come up with our plans. Each was the voice to lead their grade span, and basically what we started with was ed reports, and we showed them where ed reports were and said that those are vetted items, and so they would give us an idea of what high quality curriculum materials are out there. And so we would not even look at anything unless it had all greens, and so basically that means it had standard alignments and the usability to it. So, knowing that, we started with iReady. Everybody, K-8 was going to look at iReady. Middle school had already been working on iReady and piloting their math program since about the end of November. So they were pretty invested in that. So iReady had perfect ed scores on everything. They didn't miss a point. And so, because the middle school had that, we were going to look at that also for the elementary. Then I did not have two other big choices for the elementary. They were to go back to their teams, look and see what they thought, other programs they might want to be interested, that they were interested in, and then send that back to us about the 1st of December. And they came back with HMH, which is Into Math, and it is a remake of our current series. It was green rated, but not all perfect scores. And then Envision, which was green rated also, but was not perfect scores either. And right over here on the side is honestly just what those reports start out looking like. Just, how does it score for these two things? And that's an overall score. And then I will say, you want to see the full report, and I'll show you some pieces of that here in a minute. So high school was a little bit of a different beast, just because they always are. It's just the nature of the subject and the grade level. So they had given me 3 pieces that they were interested in. One did not meet greens on both of the usability or the standards alignment piece. So that one was out. The other one that they had was old. It was copyrighted like 2015, and I didn't feel very comfortable going ahead and adopting for another 6 years a curriculum that would be 16 years old by the time we got through. So that brought us to some discussion there. And then they also had another piece, cognitive learning. So they also were attending the National Math Conference was held in Kansas City this year. So they went to that with the idea that they were going to look and see, talk to those representatives, and also look to see if there were other things that they might find that they would be interested in. One of them they found that was the old one that was like copyright 2015 was being updated. So that helped with that, to say, okay, well, let's look at that. And then the other one, they felt after seeing some of the presentations, they were still very interested in that. So those materials were ordered for them to review what they were wanting. So the elementary, we had materials for building in January,
And they had a survey sent out to them, asking them to review the materials at each grade level, and then to complete the survey, which asked them about high quality, gave them high quality characteristics to be looking for. 2 grade levels responded with that one. Some of the responses were workbook was not engaging, rigor grades very high, with no support for students at level or below, aligns with standards and assesses each standard individually, important to have more than one data source. A few questions on the assessment, mainly questions for high students to do. None on level for those with disabilities, and the sequence might be out of order. So every single one of those comments, I went back into the different books that they were talking about to see if that was true. Also looking at to say, is this what really makes a high quality material? Is the rigor really too high, or is it on level, but we need to raise our level up? And that kind of thing. I went and talked to the team lead. It's not on here, but it's called the sequence. Scope and sequence might be out of order. So I went and looked that up to see that. Then I went in and talked to the team lead to say, okay, tell me more about that, because that was not necessarily my grade level area. And we had to talk about it. It wasn't that it was really out of order. It was, we have done it many different ways, but it wasn't the way we were doing it at this point in time, so it was still okay. After that, we set up a time to have a presentation for each 3 of the curriculums. And I sent out an email with what our non-negotiables were, and what was going to happen no matter what curriculum we chose. So those are listed there. And then I also sent out what makes a high quality instructional materials. We've heard this all over and over again. If you've been to any state type of meetings and things, TP actually leads this effort and is trying to work on training people. Like, this is what we look for when we're looking for that. So if you kind of look through that, some of those things you don't see engaging workbook pages. You know, the workbook is not going to be engaging. The person to be engaging is the teacher and the protocol and the instructional that they give with that. So the publishers presented for 30 minutes, which they all would have loved to have had an hour and a half, but not my first rodeo with them. A couple of years ago, I at the middle school, we had them in, and one person, they brought in tea and cookies and all kinds of things for us. And of course, that's what we went with, and we weren't very happy with that. We should have gone with the other. So anyway, 30 minutes, that's it, friends, what you're going to get to do. And then I sent out a second survey asking for 3 positives on the curriculum and give me an example. Don't just tell me something. I want to know what examples. Tell me the page, whatever. And then 3 challenges that you would see with that. Only 1 grade level responded to that. So we had a meeting after that to kind of talk about what we were going to do. At the end of that meeting, we had decided that we would do K2, HMH into math, 3-5, iReady. The concerns with iReady or HMH falling up into 3 through 5 was when I had done farther into it, where I said iReady had perfect scores, but HMH did not. They had enough for greens, but when I dug into it, they have some rigor problems. And then you can actually read in there and it'll say, it doesn't really address this practice or this standard very well, or it's mistaken when it's saying that it's this math practice. It doesn't really match what it's saying in the book. That kind of thing. Plus the usability went down on it too for 3rd, 4th, and 5th, really 4th and 5th. And we know that that is one of our tested areas, and we also know that's one of our areas that we sometimes struggle in. So 6 through 8, they had been in to already for a while now, deciding that that's what they wanted to use. So after meeting with principals, they did not want to do 2 different programs in K2 and 3-5. And so we talked to them about, okay, well, your choices are, and then we explained to them why, and then they were pretty adamant that we would do iReady K-5. Well, actually, it's gonna end up K-8. So that was our final decision, and the rigor, consistency, and training benefits really outweighed it for the principals to be able to know that one program. And we have training now scheduled, an overview training for April 21st. That's our PD day next Monday. And then they'll be coming back and doing that training for us when school starts on planning lessons. Then they'll do a follow-up sometime probably in October on like a PD day to kind of, not a PD day, but on early release day to kind of help us, like we taught now for a while, what are some things that you're seeing that you have questions about or that you're wondering about, or maybe there's a next piece to uncover for them, because there's quite a bit of layers to the program. So this is just the second report of the iReady. This is when you go in, you can start seeing kind of the grade level alignment, and I've circled there where it starts to kind of break away from the scores that they had for K1 and 2. And that's where, if I go in deeper, you can kind of see, it tells me over here what they're matching, what they're not. The yellow doesn't match. And then I can go to those different indicators and read what it says, why it's not matching, kind of thing. High school, they had their program wallet, but they chose, because out here I said that they think, they called today and said, or emailed today and said they wanted to do Carnegie Learning. And I'd already looked it up too. So it wasn't a perfect score, but it had 1 point that it didn't get. And this was very typical of high school. The materials, it says it'll reference and say it uses the prior learning from the lower grades, but it never identifies the standard. I mean, that is the whole piece that says that on multiple different programs, so that wasn't too concerning. So they would like to have training too on the 21st. That's going to be my miracle tomorrow. We're going to see what I can get done there. No promises on that. So that was our process. The ed reports were used to guide the quality of evaluation, and our final selection came up to K8. iReady, math, and 9-12 says to be determined, but it's not. It's going to be Carnegie. So, do you have any questions?
Just out of curiosity, is iReady, I always thought it was like an online, because you use it for online testing and all of that, right? So is there really math books and things that go with them? Okay.
Actually, there is. And one of the really nice parts about it is when you take that screener, which is also a diagnostic, it will go into, it takes it and it will just do a big lump grouping, right? But then when I'm teaching a lesson, I can actually go into that lesson and ask it to group my students for me on that piece. And I can choose, like, okay, these students are struggling a little bit. What can I do before we start the lesson? And I can just go over there, hit the yellow, and it will give me lesson plans to take to work with the kids. It also has built in to their program, which so did other ones, built in some time, like, okay, you're starting this unit, here's a couple of days that you could use to lay some foundational work that might have been weak before we started. Excellent. So, there was some discussion about people kept saying, well, it'd be nice to have a different data point. We weren't looking for data points for assessment. We were looking for a curriculum that would teach our students what they need to know.
Still be an assessment piece.
It will be, right. And so we had that discussion too, that we already have iReady, we know it well. We have trend data, we're not changing from that. So if you went into a different program, they all have a little assessment thing at the very beginning, benchmarking, but we weren't going to use those because we already had one.
Thank you so much. No public comments, so we will move on to, I would entertain a motion for the approval of the consent agenda as presented tonight.
I so move.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you so much. Passes unanimously. Our action items tonight are to revise and adopt policies, and I think Mrs. Honeywell will come and visit with us. We've had this in our packet. We've seen this last month. We're going to see it again tonight, so we'll take action tonight.
Yeah, no worries, I'm not going to read it to you. I feel like we should maybe stand up and take a brain break.
Yes.
So this is just a quick review.
did look at these policies last time. These were mainly recommendations from KASB, so some grammatical changes and then a combination of policies, and I didn't have anybody reach out with any questions on any of those.
They all looked great to me, and your presentation, by the way, was really helpful and very knowledgeable, so we could easily access, I felt. So I would entertain a motion to let's revise this policy as presented. Thank you, Brandy. May I have a second? Thank you, Sally. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you so much. It passes unanimously. Next, we need to approve the activities and supplementals. And again, this is a second read. This is not anything we've seen for the first time. Again.
Yep, I just want to make a note to you, and we had shared this with you in a board update, but we did have a couple of supplemental requests, and it was brought to our attention that they were not dated March 1st, which is the date that is referenced in the agreement. So we pulled those off. So the only supplemental proposal we have is the music drama assistant director proposal, and that one did meet that criteria. Yes, it did.
So I entertain a motion to approve the activities and supplementals as presented.
I move to approve the activities and supplementals as proposed as presented.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Stephanie. Any discussion on those? I don't see any either. All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you so much. It does pass unanimously. Next, exciting news for the summer maintenance and capital outlay and technology plan. This is also a second read. So Lori, I'm gonna let you visit with us. Hi.
This is the capital outlay plan from last time that we reviewed. I did make a couple of tweaks on here, so that's what I'm gonna go through, unless you have any questions while we're doing it. Okay. This is everything we've spent in the last 3 years, just kind of a gauge of what we're spending on. I cannot see that screen. Been one of those days. Okay. So we're looking for the 24-25 is what we're spending this summer, essentially. The fire panel and upgrades, cameras, everything we've already talked about. We did add choir risers. Those were around 20,000. They're kind of 3/4 way down the list. And then the other one was lighting upgrades. I'm trying to find out here. Yeah, lighting upgrades for 167,000 for 3 years. This is not a for sure yet. We're just going to talk with ROI about investing in this, and it gives you money back on your savings essentially. So it's a good investment. We're just looking at financing plans, and that might be an option. But I put it for 3 years instead of 1. That's really the only thing I changed on here. It will reduce our cash balance a little bit, but I think in the long run, it's the way to go. Do you have any questions?
After looking at it, I think we've, I'd entertain a motion to accept our summer maintenance capital outlay and technology plan as presented.
I move that we accept.
Thank you. May I have a second? Oh, Diane, thank you so much. All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you so much. It does pass unanimously. Next is to approve the BOE capacity determination, and that is Ms. Honeywell again. Welcome.
All right, here we go. So if you remember last year, we had to pass a new policy related to non-resident student enrollment. That was due to a new state law. And so we're just back here to present to you the results of our capacity study. I'm recommending in terms of open seats, because we have to have that approved by May 1st. So I just summarized that first slide for you. And then, so this is, we conferred with principals today to get their ultimate approval. So for Atchison Elementary, if you look at the yellow highlighted and the red highlighted, yellow would be the capacity per grade level, and that's what we're required to set by the state and then put on our website. And then red would be the open seats. So for the most part, we're doing really well, and we would love to have additional students come in to increase our enrollment. The one class shown here, third grade, is higher than the other grade levels. So that would be the elementaries. This would be middle school. So yellow, we're saying 120 spots essentially for each grade, and then 10, 15, 15. And then high school, very similar. And then just a note about Central, we do have, Central's different, so we have a policy in place where we have to go through our district placement team for any enrollment there, so at this time, we don't accept outside enrollment for that building.
Okay. Any questions, anyone? I'd entertain a motion to approve the capacity determination.
I move that we accept the capacity determination.
Thank you so much. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you so much. It does pass unanimously. Next is our items for discussion and consideration. And first is the personal device policy, which we entertained earlier in the meeting today. A beautiful community situation where everybody came together and was really the I'm trying to find the word I'm looking for. The way it happened, I can't think of the word I'm looking for. Collaboration, there you go, was amazing. It's been a long meeting, but the collaboration was awesome, so we'll talk about that again, and it'll be as a first read this time.
Yep, so we've just cut and pasted that policy that we went through with you earlier, and so the idea is, if this is approved, that would go into each building's handbook.
We'll ask for a final, we'll ask for final action in May.
Yes. So we'll take a real good look at it. There was one word that I'll call Nicole tomorrow and think about that just jumped out to me. So take a look at it and I'll give you a holler in the morning about that. Next is our registered teacher apprenticeship, which is
Retaining some individuals who are classified employees with us, that's who we would really target first. But through a registered teacher apprenticeship program, Kansas has had this for a couple of years, and we know that we have a need to recruit staff members, so we really would like to pursue that. So, why? There are teacher shortages in Kansas and other where, especially in special education. And so how does this align with the mission and vision? Well, it directly supports those values by advancing equity and opportunity, particularly in staff members who live in our community. And how does it tie into the strategic plan? Well, right here, it ties right into high quality staff, recruitment and attainment, educator licensure, community partnerships, all of that. And then eventually what we could do is tie the registered teacher apprenticeship straight to our CTE pathways. And that's what we hear that other districts have done. So it's a 4-year competency-based pathway. Essentially, somebody could come in at 18 years old and want to start this process. At the end of it, they would get a 4-year degree, a bachelor's degree as a teacher. But you think about teaching, we follow a model of I do, we do, you do. So it's the same thing here with individuals who are maybe paras. So we want to give them lots and lots of support. And then over the course of 4 years, then they're ready to take on their teaching opportunity versus a student teaching experience, which is maybe 6 weeks in length. It strengthens the teacher pipeline, and then we would really be targeting some of our special education opportunities because we've got some paras within our special ed staff who are great and they need to be teachers, and we're working on them. So the apprentices are district employees. They're paired with a mentor teacher. There's some reimbursement from the state at this time for that. We know that funding may change in the future. So we're just looking at ways that we can make that happen. There's lots of funding available to the employee to pay for the schooling, and so that's what really attracted us to it. Let's skip through this. The one piece, the starting wage currently that they recommend or they mandate that you have is that it starts at $14 an hour. So our thought process is that could potentially be on our classified wage scale as another column. And then you have to show how you're progressively increasing that amount, which luckily we already have that classified wage scale that could help us do that. And then there's lots and lots of other information there, but basically somebody could come to us with no college hours and they could join this process, or they could come to us with some college hours and join the process. So we did have a Zoom with some of our principals and a representative from the state, and it's a really exciting opportunity to get some of our paras and potentially down the road other individuals from the community the education that they need, and then really pour back into them and keep them forever.
Do we partner with a specific higher level, higher institution?
Yep, so there's several different colleges, and they gave us the lowdown. So for example, there's one college in Utah that's all competency-based.
So they would Zoom in, watch the person teach, and give them some credit hours for that. And that would be really advantageous for anybody who has no college credit and wants to be a special ed teacher. But then the other Kansas institutions have other benefits as well. So it's just identifying which school benefits that individual the most. We do have to register with the Department of Labor as being an entity that supports a registered apprenticeship program. So there are some procedural things we do as well as the applicant.
Fantastic. Does the employee have to be with us for so long before they would qualify for that?
Not necessarily, but if they've had some para experience, the ones that we have in mind that we think would be interested do have that experience. And then what we'd like to do eventually is maybe have a contract with it where if you spend 4 years in this process, then you give us 4 years teaching. So that would be something that we could decide.
Is there a target number of apprentices?
Well, we don't want to take on too many just because we're getting our feet wet with it, but what we thought we would do is potentially put out an application and kind of see what interest is there. One of the nice things is the employee has to do some work on their part to get enrolled with the institution, so then you can kind of see what the level of seriousness is. But we were really excited when we heard about all the grant opportunities that most of our staff would actually qualify for. So they could get it essentially fully paid for.
Thank you so much for that. Appreciate your work on that. That is excellent. So next is our executive session, and Diane.
Madam President, I move the board recess into an executive session to discuss the following subjects: employees, employment performances, employment recommendations. The justification for this executive session is to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel pursuant to the non-elected personnel exception under KOMA. The open meeting will resume in the Board of Education Community Room at 7:45.
Thank you, Sean, for the second. Any discussion? Raise your hand if you're all in favor, and let's go back there. Thank you.
Madam President, I move that we accept the following resignations. Heather Mathias, robotics co-sponsor, Atchison High School, effective at the end of the 24-25 school year. Paul Ogle, robotics co-sponsor, Scholars Bowl coach, and National Honor Society sponsor, Atchison High, effective at the end of the 2024-25 school year. James Newstead, science teacher, Atchison High School, effective at the end of the 24-25 school year. Catherine Black, first grade teacher, Atchison Elementary School, and assistant girls soccer coach at Atchison High, effective at the end of the 24-25 school year. Pat Battle, assistant football coach, Atchison High School, effective at the end of the 2024-2025 school year. Keenan Martin, special education teacher, Atchison Central School, effective at the end of the 2024-25 school year.
Yes. Thank you so much. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you so much. Next, 25-26, employment.
For next year, 25-26 employment recommendations. Morgan Bowman, second grade teacher, Atchison Elementary, effective July 1st, 2025. Michael Gabbard, fifth grade teacher, Atchison Elementary School, effective July 1st, 2025. Josie Weiser, physical education teacher, Atchison Elementary School, effective July 1st, 2025. Julie Birnbaum, first grade special education teacher, Atchison Elementary School, effective July 1st, 2025. Whitney Schnabel, first grade teacher, Atchison Elementary School, effective July 1st, 2025. Samantha Raska, pre-K special education teacher, Atchison Elementary School, effective July 1st, 2025. Lauren Walters, pre-K teacher, Atchison Elementary School, effective July 1st, 2025. Beth Clark, fourth grade teacher, Atchison Elementary School, effective July 1st, 2025.
I'll second.
Thank you so much. Any discussion? Did you see that? Beth, did you hear that? Look at all those teachers we just hired.
Yes, that's awesome.
Yeah. Laura, Beth, you're in great shape at Atchison Elementary. We are.
And this is, I gotta go observe her. I'm her special ed.
Oh, great. Yeah, and she's the one who just did our, paid internship through Benedict.
Yeah, I asked somebody if she was doing that.
So great.
Good. Did we get a
Good
second?
discussion. Yes. All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you so much. It does pass unanimously. 25-26 supplementals.
Just a few, Steve Watkins, lunchroom supervisor for fall and spring, and this is for next year at Atchison High School. Jamie Tate, sixth grade team leader, Atchison Middle School, and La Rochelle Young, National Honor Society sponsor, Atchison High School.
I'll second those days. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you so much. It does pass unanimously. Anything else?
I think National Honor Society is this Wednesday. I cannot be there. I'm out of town for meetings, but if any of you can show up to the National Honor Society induction, that's always a nice night. Yeah.
And then, the alternate, May 23rd, you can believe it's next month, is, end of year breakfast.
Yep, May 23rd. Put that on your calendar if you want to come to the end of the year breakfast. We have a couple very longevity retirements that might be just nice if you were there. And we'll have the board members that can be there on stage to hand out all the stuff.
Do we have a meeting Wednesday?
Next Wednesday?
Next Wednesday, not this week.
Yeah. Yeah, next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We
Okay.
use it.
For some reason, I have something on my calendar for this Wednesday.
I don't think we need to do that.
We don't need to, okay.
Okay.
Oh, that was gonna be a maybe, yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Great.
yes.
Okay.
Just next week, it's Tuesday, and it's 6 to 8, I believe.
And dinner, is at 5:15.
Okay, 5:15 dinner, and then before that is the
Reception.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get an email on the 4 o'clock.
I will put in the board update this week. The schedule. I'll put all that in the, I'll put all that in the board update. It's 3:30.
Also, it's been a long night, guys.
Graduation's May 17th.
I can't go graduation.
Graduation is May 17th. It is on the same day as BC's, so just be prepared of that. It's May 17th, a Saturday. So we'll send out a message for you to get there probably about 9:30. I'll probably show up at 2.
And everybody has, regalia or whatever you need for that, right?
All right. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you. Second? Thanks. All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you so much. Does pass. Thank you.